Peter King knows people.
Yeah.
And when he goes to Packers camp and he says, hey, Romeo Dobbs is getting a ton of respect, and then you sit here and you look at what he's been doing in the preseason, right? At least 3 receptions and a receiving touchdown in both preseason games. He's been targeted 12 times in both preseason games. Christian Watson has been banged up, hasn't got the field, right? And so you'd sit here and you say, okay, after Allen Lazard, who's the number 2? Aaron Rodgers has been talking up Romeo Dobbs. Now he is a rookie. So my question to you, Jay, is like, we buying this hype on Romeo Dobbs?
Well, the market definitely is, because he was 250 to 1 to an offensive rookie of the year a month ago. No one knew who he was, and now he's 15 to 1 and in that kind of top 10 favorites. But
wow.
I think the thing with Dobbs is he kind of has to be the guy, because if he's not, and they're rolling with Allen Lazard, Randall Cobb, whatever's left of Sammy Watkins, that's a problem, because that's got the kind of vibes of Tom Brady's last year on the Patriots, where he's just throwing to a mismatch of guys. But Dobbs has the talent, and he can do everything, and I think they're just going to have to sustain the drops. And he's had some drops, and that's becoming a story as well, but, I mean, they just don't have anyone else who has that potential and upside. I'm
trying to think. I feel like there was a rookie last year that had a couple of bad drops the preseason. Did that work out okay for Jamar Chase? I'm in on Romeo Dobbs. I love the story here. Again, Aaron Rodgers is talking him up. You hear Peter King talking him up. By the way, the production is there, and to your point, right, like he makes a lot of plays. If you follow Packers beat writers, which I do, they talk about the fact that hey, yes, he's had some bad drops, and he's got to work on that, but he is making lots and lots of plays. And to your point, like Aaron Rodgers can make anyone great.
Yep. He's
Aaron Rodgers, so I'm in on Romeo Dobbs as a sleeper. He's currently going as wide receiver 67. He's not even being drafted at some points on Yahoo. So definitely he is a riser, and I still prefer Allen Lazard, who, by the way, is still way underrated.
He's good.
Undervalued. Yeah. Yes, Allen Lazard is good. Like
boring, but good.
I think the entire Packers offense is being completely undervalued in fantasy drafts.
Yep.
I get it. Devontae Adams was good. I hear you. And he's gone. But you know what? Like, he's still Aaron Rodgers. They're still the Packers. They're still going to win a ton of games. I've talked about this. I love the win total over for the Packers. To me, is like the easiest bet this preseason.
10.5.
10.5,
yep.
which they've done, each of the last 3 years
for fun.
Yeah, exactly. All right, another riser, George Pickens. Speaking of rookie wide receivers, again, I think with Doubs and Pickens, there are similar stories in that talent-wise, they both should have gone earlier in the draft. There were other reasons why they went where they went, but George Pickens has made some impressive plays in the preseason, and I have this weird theory that their offense is going to be better this year. I think everyone's just like, oh, no, Big Ben. I'm like, Big Ben was an albatross for them last year.
Yeah.
Big Ben was like, you talk about the ghost of Randall Cobb. Yeah. How about the ghost of Ben Roethlisberger out there spooking defenses? Ooh, yeah, there's Ben. Like, I mean, just like all respect to Ben, and he's a first ballot Hall of Famer, but he was bad.
Yep.
He was bad at football the last 2 years.
Yep, he was. Mitch Trubisky is better now than Big Ben Roethlisberger. Ghost to Ben Roethlisberger was the past 2 years. And the thing with Trubisky, like if you don't like Pickens for other reasons, like he's got Deontay Johnson and Claypool and the offensive line is bad, that's fine. But I wouldn't use Mitch Trubisky as a reason to write off Pickens, because the thing with Trubisky is he can make all the throws. It's just he has a brain fade every 15 plays that it's just submarines your entire team. But in terms of racking up stats, I think George Pickens, he won't suffer from that.
And by the way, Kenny Pickett has looked good in the preseason as well. I think if Trubisky has too many of those brain farts, it'll be Pickett there. And what it's looking like is to me, the anti-George Pickens argument is, to your point, is volume, right?
Yep.
So you've got Juju. You've got Deontay Johnson and Pickens on the outside. They're moving Chase Claypool to the slot, it looks like. And then you've also got Pat Freiermuth, who I like a lot. And Najee Harris obviously is involved in the passing game quite a bit. So that's the volume is the question. But this has been a pass-heavy offense last couple of years under Ben. And so was that Ben, or is that going to be more just that's how they're running their philosophy? I do think Pickens might be a little bit overdrafted, but as we're talking risers and fallers, absolutely somebody that needs to be on fantasy radars. I prefer him to Breece Hall or Chris Olave, who are other rookies that are more favorites that are higher ranked favorites to win Rookie of the Year, and in some cases are getting more love. All right, let's talk about Brian Robinson here. Antonio, I mean, like, we're doing risers and fallers, so we're saying Brian Robinson's a riser, but Antonio Gibson's a faller, dude.
Yeah.
Like, he's returning kicks. I mean,
it's not good.
I'm a Commanders fan, and I think the question has been, is this just trying to send a message to Antonio Gibson, or is this real? And I've talked to some sources. It's real.
Yeah.
This is real. I love Antonio Gibson. Do not draft him. Or draft him as Brian Robinson insurance.
Yeah.
I think this is going to be a three-headed monster, and I think Brian Robinson is going to be the head of it. Like, they're still going to use Antonio Gibson, but where Antonio Gibson is currently going, which is running back 21 on Yahoo, that's way too high. He fumbled in the preseason opener. This is a guy who last year lost 6 fumbles, led the NFL among running backs in that stat. And I will tell you, just talking to people around the team, there is thoughts inside that team that just basically they feel like Antonio Gibson specifically lost them a couple of games last year with untimely fumbles in the red zone on the other team. And so Brian Robinson, who comes out of Alabama, find yourself somebody who looks at you the way Washington looks at Alabama players. They've got a lot of Crimson Tide there in the Commanders' locker room. This is a real thing.
Yeah, and I think the thing with Antonio Gibson, he's a faller, and then the riser, it's not even Brian Robinson, it's just unnamed person next to Antonio Gibson, because that's how much he's falling. And I think Robinson is an interesting comparison to George Pickens in a way, because, production is all about ability and usage. And I think we know that George Pickens has the ability. It's just a matter of whether he gets the usage. I think we kind of know that Brian Robinson's getting the usage, just a matter of whether he's got the ability. I mean, he went pick 98. There, he seems to be more of a kind of bruiser, and he doesn't have to be Jonathan Taylor or anything. But do you think he's good enough to be able to really capitalize on the role?
I do think he is, and I think they'll use him smartly. I'm a big fan of Scott Turner in the offensive scheme. They also brought back J.D. McKissick. So I think it's going to be a bit of a three-headed monster at running back, and I also think that offense will open up a lot more with Carson Wentz under center. They had to be conservative last couple of years because of limited quarterback play, right? I mean, so they had Tyler Heineke, who's a great story, but he's really a backup. Yeah. And prior to that, it was Alex Smith and Dwayne Haskins and Kyle Allen. And so now with Carson Wentz, same with Baker Mayfield. Again, I'm not saying you want Carson Wentz in fantasy, but he's a professional quarterback who can make all the throws. And to Terry McLaurin, and they're getting Logan Thomas back, and they've added Jahan Dotson, who's another riser, by the way. He's having a great camp. Him over Curtis Samuel, by the way, just letting you know there. They love Dotson. And so this is going to be a much more wide open offense, I think, than the conservative one we've seen the last couple of years. So I don't know that I would want to go into a season with Brian Robinson as a starting running back for me, but as a sleeper, he's absolutely worth taking. And considering their current ADPs, Antonio Gibson is a fade at the moment. Brian Robinson is very much worth a flyer. Damian Pierce, speaking of another riser, Pierce didn't play last week, and I think it feels like in the second preseason game, because you feel like, does that mean he's got the running back one job wrapped up already? We saw Mike Florio tweet that exact thing, and I think that's what it means.
I would hope so, given his competition. I mean, Marlon Mack and Rex Burkhead, not the most intimidating threats at this point. And I think the thing with Pierce, who also another guy who's offensive rookie of the year odds, plummeted. Again, 100 to 1, no one knew who he was a month ago. Now he's shorter than 20 to 1. So Pierce is a guy where I think the worry for him is that, how good can you be being a running back on the team that's projected to be one of the 3 worst teams in the league? I would kind of caution a little bit against that because, Saquon Barkley had a pretty good rookie year on the Giants, who I think went 5-11, Pat Shurmur era. So Damian Pierce, I don't think he's going to be Saquon Barkley rookie year, but I think that he can get enough stats to outperform his ADP certainly.
Yeah, and I think when they get in close, they'll want to run. By the way, he's plus 1,700 to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. I also think that's an interesting bet.
Yeah, sure. Breece Hall is the favorite among the running backs. But after that, there's not really. And
I think Breece Hall is a fade. I get the talent of Breece Hall. I like him, but that's a bad offensive line that got worse when Mekhi Becton got hurt, right? And by the way, look at the usage so far in the preseason. Him and Michael Carter are based. That's a San Francisco coaching staff. They want to use multiple running backs. Everyone thinking that because of the draft capital, Breece Hall is going to be the guy. Michael Carter's not going away. Like, they're going to use Michael Carter.
Michael Carter, he's a much bigger threat as well than Marlon Mack or Rex Burkhead.
1,000%. So we're all in on Damian Pierce. He's currently going as running back 39, 121st overall on Yahoo. So I think that's about right in the mid 30 ranges. But when my updated rankings come out, he will be higher. Let's get into the fallers and where are you on Treylon Burks?
My thing with Treylon Burks is that, so in the first preseason game, Malik Willis, who takes 80 seconds to throw the ball, he had Treylon Burks wide open for like a 50-yard bomb and just didn't see him. And if Treylon Burks just gets that pass and catches it, do we think about him completely differently in the preseason? I know it's a problem that he was playing in the fourth quarter of games and stuff, but look, I think that it's probably gone a little bit too far on Treylon Burks. And the thing with him is that it's kind of similar to the Romeo Dobbs thing, but even to more of an extent, where if he's not the guy, then who's the guy? Like Robert Woods coming off an ACL. Treylon Burks was drafted to fill the A.J. Brown role, and I think he needs to get run almost immediately.
I think so. Look, four targets in the first 2 preseason games. I will say that I'm in on Robert Woods. Looks healthy. You know, he's going to be the number 1 guy there. We know that offense can support at least one fantasy relevant pass catcher here. Remember, they also signed Austin Hooper, who's a very and you don't sign Austin Hooper to block. You know what I'm saying? Like if you're bringing in Austin Hooper, you're expecting him to catch passes, and so I actually if I'm drafting a Titans wide receiver, give me Robert Woods. But I do think the hate on Treylon Burks has gone too far. I will say though, it is certainly concerning. He is absolutely falling. He is currently going as wide receiver 61. I am at wide receiver 52. So I mean, he's fallen a little bit too far, but I'm outside my top 50. Right? So
it's a flyer.
He is a late round flyer. You know what's great about having your own show, Jay?
Here we go. Yeah.
Is that I'm going to give you this piece where we're going to ask you to pronounce this person's last name.
No.
I don't have to do it. I can just make you do it.
Yeah, I believe it's pronounced Albert O.
Yeah. Albert O?
Yeah.
I apologize to Albert O. I always butcher it, and I figure I'd rather just bail on it and than butcher it.
Abweg Burnham.
No, it's anyway. Apologies to Albert O.
Sounds in Australia.
But at any rate, here's another guy that was playing every single, playing with a third team, playing with a second team. He was rotating in with Eric Saubert and Eric Tomlinson, the other Broncos tight ends. This is a guy that was thought to be a very trendy sleeper tight end with Russell Wilson coming to play quarterback for the Denver Broncos. I'm out. He was playing in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
When you play in the fourth quarter, they don't care about you. No. That's the special teamers. And Nathaniel Hackett said he needed reps, and that's why he played. But when he needs reps, that's also not a good sign. You're seeing him in practice.
That was the thing, saying he needs reps. The season starts in 2 weeks. Is he going to have enough reps by then? Because he's not going to get the practice reps in week 1 against the Seahawks with Russell Wilson at quarterback. So, I think he's a big fade.
Another follower is Ken Walker through no fault of his own. He's dealing with a hernia injury. Pete Carroll didn't reveal too much about the procedure. I will say, though, that Pete Carroll wasn't super enthusiastic about it. The only reason I bring that up is Pete Carroll's super enthusiastic about everything.
Yeah, breakfast, lunch, dinner.
Oh,
all his players.
Every injury.
Yeah.
Pete Carroll is the guy. I'm older than you, but do you ever see you ever see the Monty Python movie, where it's just it's just a flesh wound, right? Your arm's cut off. It's just a flesh wound, right? Literally that's Pete Carroll.
Yeah.
Guy could walk in with both arms cut off. It's flesh wound. He'll be out there Saturday.
Yeah, he can block.
So the fact that he wasn't super enthusiastic about Ken Walker gives me a little bit of pause. They say he's expected to be ready to go week 1. I feel like he won't be, but even still, it's a rookie running back on an offense that we think is going to struggle. That's going to have, whether it's Drew Lock or Geno Smith under center, it's not a super experienced quarterback, and so I think Rashad Penny probably needs to go up a round or 2. I think Rashad Penny would be a bit of a riser here. Ken Walker, even if he's ready for week 1, he's going to miss 2 crucial weeks of practice here, a couple of weeks of practice in the preseason. I loved Ken Walker because Penny hasn't stayed healthy, and I do think Ken Walker's an interesting flyer late in your draft as somebody second half of the year. But certainly a bit of a faller now with the injury news. That is not great.
No. I think, so Rashad Penny is really interesting to me because he is the one player that the fantasy and betting markets appear to be most apart of any player in the league. Because Rashad Penny, he's a top 10 favorite to lead the NFL in rushing, and that's not being reflected at all in his fantasy draft position. 4 of his last 5 games last year, he got 135 yards at least on the ground. He led the league in yards per carry. And yeah, I get that he's probably going to get injured, but that's not a guarantee. And at his draft position and at some of the numbers out there, like it doesn't matter. Like you're taking a flyer on a guy who led the league in yards per carry.
I think that's a great call. I didn't realize his odds were that to lead the league in rushing because, yeah, I mean, he was a monster down the stretch.
It's unbelievable.
Look, Pete Carroll wants to, I mean, remember, let Russ cook.
Yeah.
And so if he wouldn't let Russ throw the ball, what do you think he's going to do with Drew Lock or Geno Smith? Like, they're going to lead the league in handoffs. This is going to be a very run-heavy offense. And so if Rashad Penny can stay healthy, we know about the talent. We saw it last year down the stretch. He was fantastic. He led a lot of fantasy managers to titles down the stretch last year. While Ken Walker's out, Travis Homer, DJ Dallas will be the fill-ins as well. But yes, Penny is who you want in Seattle.